Hey guys, welcome. Today's practice is dedicated to clearing out the fog from what is often referred to as chemo-brain, that fuzzy thinking that we can get during treatment. I invite you though to think about this practice not as a cure, but just as tools that you can use when you're feeling that way. When things are feeling a little fuzzy and cloudy, we'll focus on some tools in the practice today that you can take on your mat or off your mat when you want to get recentered and refocused. And so some of the things we'll work with today are some breath work. Anytime we can focus on breath, bring more oxygen to the brain, helpful for finding a little more focus. We'll focus on also what's called drishti, or a single point of focus. Sometimes when we're in that fog, it just feels hard to find the center point. And so we'll practice doing that today. And then just what yoga's always good at is focusing on that coordination of our breath and our body working together so that it helps the other things to hopefully fall away and we can sort through that fog, that cloud a little bit more. So if you have a couple blocks, have those handy. It's also nice to have something to sit up on, whether that's one of your blocks or a pillow or a couple blankets, something like that. Right now I'm sitting up on a block. We're going to start seated, whatever feels like a comfortable seated position, and we'll just begin with some breath work. So close your eyes. Bring your hands down to your thighs. Sometimes that simple action of palms down to your thighs can help energy start to settle and find the place where we feel more grounded, more connected. And then just notice where your breath is to begin. Right? So often in the day, we're just using a small portion of our breathing capacity, that space up in the collarbones and the upper portion of the lungs. So we're going to begin practice with a fuller breath. I sometimes call this umbrella breath, was how I learned it. A nice way to really be increasing the amount of oxygen that we're bringing in. Okay, so then just slowly, without forcing it, without pushing it, start to feel the breath move towards your belly. And start to take it deep enough that you feel a little bit more movement as your belly expands and contracts. And we don't want it to be anything that you're forcing, making happen. And just bringing attention to that area, like it's soft through your belly, so the breath can start to fill up there. And then start to bring your breath out in the space of your side bodies. And you can even help to take your hands to the sides of your ribs. And then direct your breath to where your hands are. Right? So we know sometimes in yoga, it's just this visualization of where our breath is moving to. And just can be a really helpful tool for finding that fuller breath and bringing awareness. So with hands on your side ribs, you might start to feel the ribs expand and contract a little bit more. And all those little muscles in between each rib are actually accessory breathing muscles. So the more we can create space there, the more we open them, then the more effective they'll be. Okay, and then the last one is to start to take your hands into the back of your body. You take your hands in that space right underneath your ribs, think about where your kidneys are. Sometimes this one for me, I know, is a little harder to visualize, to access, so be patient, especially if you're not used to directing breath places. And you can think about it almost like two little balloons starting to fill up that space underneath your hands. And then release your hands back to your thighs. And now to see if you can start to bring your breath in all of those directions. Front body, side bodies, and back body. And so the reason this one can be called umbrella breath, if we think about it like an umbrella, expanding and contracting in that space underneath the diaphragm. It opens and closes, right, like an umbrella does, in all four directions instead of just out to the front. It feels a little different at first. No worries. Usually anything new does. And the idea is it doesn't have to be perfect. One is giving our brain something to focus on. And the more we can bring attention to that single point of focus, maybe we can use it as a tool to help clear the fog. Second, anytime we bring a little bit fuller breaths in, we're increasing oxygenation to blood flow and then more oxygen to the brain. Well, to everywhere, but particularly helpful right now to your brain. And so give yourself just a few more breaths like this. And if it feels good to carry this breath throughout the practice today, great. Sometimes it starts to feel like a lot of effort, and so you can let it go, but just always find a breath that feels steady and full, even if it doesn't feel like it's perfectly coordinated in all four directions. And then we'll just add on a little bit of movement from here. So stay seated, hands to your thighs. With your next inhale, lift your chest up, arch your back, draw your shoulders back, and tilt your chin slightly up. We're not throwing the head back, just a little lift of the chin and the gaze. And then exhale, round through your back, draw your chin towards your chest, press your hands down and forward. And begin to coordinate that with your breath. Inhale, lift your chest. Lift your gaze slightly, arch your back, and exhale, round. You can release your hands to press down and forward on your thighs as you draw your chin to your chest. And so seated cat-cow. Inhale, lift chest, arch back. You draw your shoulders back to create that space in your collarbones, more room for breath. And exhale, empty it all out as you round in, round through your back, draw your chin towards your chest. Good. Take a couple more. Use this first movement to really work to coordinate the breath and the body together. And by that meaning that each side of the movement coordinates with each half of the breath so that it feels continuous, seamless. And again, it's a great way just giving the mind a job to do. Our brains are busy and they can get unfocused. They're just asking for us to find a little more focus, concentration to help sort through some of the excess, some of the fog and the haze. Wherever you're at, take one more round. And come back to center. Anchor through your seat. And so feel heavy, sit tall. And just feel where your breath is moving to now. And then from here, we're going to slide forward, tabletop position, hands and knees. You can set your props off to the side. And once you get there, take a moment to set up a strong foundation. Your shoulders are stacked under your wrists. Your hips are over your knees. And then spread wide through your hands so your fingers are like a fan. And take a little grip with your fingertips so that hands are strong and engaged. Now lift and tone through your low belly so you have a lot of support there. And stretch your right leg out behind you, but keep your toes down. And then just rock back and forth a little bit on the ball of your foot on your toes. We start to warm up through ankle joint, toes, even a little bit through the calves. And so here, see if you can go slow enough that you coordinate this movement with your breath. right? And whichever one feels more comfortable, inhale to rock back, exhale to rock forward, or vice versa. Right? That part matters less. Just let the attention be on that coordination of your breath and body moving together. And then come on back to center. Stay toned through your lower belly for support. Press into your right hand, stretch your left arm out in front. So we're in this diagonal balance. Turn your thumb up towards the ceiling. Okay, and then find a single point of focus right on your mat or on the ground out in front of you. And that might be like a little speck on your mat. If you have a pattern, pick something. Our eyes really help with our balance. And that single point of focus, again, giving the mind somewhere specific to draw its attention. And then you have a couple options here. You can stay right here with the back foot down. That might feel like plenty today. Or start to float your right leg up. It's going to probably challenge the balance a little bit more. And if your back leg is lifted, flex your foot. Roll your inner thigh up so your hips stay level. And then lift and tone again through your low belly for support. Take one more full breath in. And then exhale, bring your left hand back down to your mat. Inhale here. And then exhale, step your right foot all the way through. And you may want to grab the ankle, help it along so that you bring a hand on either side of your front foot. Sometimes it even helps just to slide your left knee back a little bit. Here is a great place for blocks if it's feeling like the mat's really far away this morning, or sometimes you just need longer arms. Okay, once you're here, give a little squeeze of your inner legs toward center. And lift it and tone through your belly. Take a full breath in. And then exhale, slide your hips back, bring your front leg to or towards straight. Inhale, come forward, bend your knee, just warming up a little through hips and legs. Exhale, slide back, coordinate breath and body moving together. Come forward, inhale, whether you're with that full umbrella breath or just a steady rhythm that feels good. Exhale, slide back. Good. One more inhale, come forward. And then exhale, hinge back. You can walk your hands back a little bit if that feels good. Hands or blocks, whatever you have there for support. But flex your front foot. Press down into your heel. And then traction, so that movement without movement, your heel back until you feel maybe a little bit more engagement through the hamstrings. Your knee might be bent a little bit more, that's fine. And just start to feel into the sensation along the back line of your leg, maybe glutes, maybe low back. Next, inhale, side forward, bend your front knee, and then step your right foot back again to tabletop. Okay, and if you need to reset through your hands so they feel stacked underneath your shoulders, do that. You press down through your fingertips and lift through your belly. Let's do all of that on the second side. Left foot back, toes down to start, and then take that rock back and forward. Toes, balls of your foot, and coordinate the breath and the movement together. And so we get full breaths, oxygenation going to the brain. And finding those single points of focus just to help start to clear the fog out, or like defrosting the windshield. Get one little point to focus on. Okay, come back to center. Keep that lift of your low belly for support. That really helps with the balance. And then reach your right arm out in front. Turn your thumb up towards the ceiling. Okay, find that single point of focus. Gaze down to your mat right out in front. Okay, just so you don't want to look forward. And keep the back of your neck long, looking down. Okay, and then same thing, you're either going to stay right here or lift your back leg up and challenge the balance a little bit more. Things might get a little wobbly, that's okay. And keep that steady point of focus. And then even as we hold, find that rhythm of your breath. So we don't find like we're holding the breath in balance poses. Roll your inner left thigh up if it's lifted, and keep rooting down through your left hand. Take one more full breath in. And then exhale, bring your right hand down to your mat. Exhale, step your left foot all the way through. Maybe you grab your ankle, help it along, and pick up your right knee, slide it back just a little bit. It's going to give you a little more space in the pose. Hands to your mat or hands to blocks. Squeeze your inner legs toward center. Just feel that stability and support of your legs. And then take a full breath in. Exhale, shift your hips back. Bring your front leg to or towards straight, really just depending on the flexibility of hamstrings this morning. Inhale, come forward, bend your front knee. Sometimes I say morning, but you might be doing this at night. Exhale, shift your hips back, straighten, flex your front foot. Good. Your breath, your rhythm. It might be a little different from where my cues are at. Inhale, come forward. That's fine. Listen to your breath. Exhale, slide back. Good. Front leg straight or moving in that direction. And if it's feeling a little tighter along the back line of the leg, keep a little bend. Right? Use blocks for support. But go ahead, flex your front foot, press your heel down, and traction your heel back. I find sometimes even on just like regular mind wandering days, right, take our treatment out of it, that the alignment of the poses for me helps to really get me in my body to focus on that instead of the mind moving in, right, 100 different directions as it can sometimes do. Okay, next, inhale, come forward, bend your front knee. Walk your hands forward to frame your front foot. Lift your back knee. And then this time, take a big step forward all the way to the front of your mat. Okay, bring your hands to your hips. And then really anchor down through your feet. Press down slowly. Come all the way up to standing. Right, just so we're not moving super quickly from head below heart to head above. And then start with your feet about hip width apart. You can judge that by two fists in between. Sometimes we overestimate the width of hips. And so you want to find a place that feels stable. Bring your arms along your sides, turn your palms forward, and then soften or even close your eyes. Sometimes closing makes our balance a little wobbly, so maybe just a soft gaze. See what feels right. And then bring your attention to your feet. And see if you can feel the weight rest into the heels. And then press down into the big toe mounds. And now press down into the outer edges of the feet. And then, this one's kind of fun sometimes. See if you can press down into the pad on each toe until you feel like your feet are firmly rooted, connected, and which might help us to get a little more grounded, feel stable and steady. Sometimes when everything in our brain and our head feels swirling or foggy, it can be helpful just to move our focus to a place that feels more grounded, feet or where you're sitting, and just bring your attention there. And take one more full breath like this, actively pressing down from your hips to your feet. And then from here, take a big step wide, come to face towards the long end of your mat. Right? Feet as wide as is comfortable and stable, but feels like it's effective. Okay? And then turn your left toes forward, slide your right heel back an inch or two, bring your arms out wide, and then bend your front knee, warrior two. And so you just want to make sure you have a wide enough stance that your knee, your front knee stacked over your ankle or even slightly behind, just so you're not coming forward of the knee joint. Okay, and then again, keep your gaze soft, but strengthen through your legs. And so squeeze your heels in towards center. Press down from your hips to your feet. Keep your shoulders more square towards the long end of your mat. And a soft gaze out over your front hand. So you get that drishti, your focus point. Find steady breath. And then anchor firmly into your legs and into your feet. Take another full breath here. Next, inhale, straighten your front leg. As you exhale, reach forward, find length. And then exhale, hinge, triangle pose. So you can bring your hand to your shin, to a block if you have that, to your mat if it's comfortable. Sometimes that's just a really long reach. Okay, stretch your top arm straight up. And this time either take your gaze forward, right? Something maybe on the wall in front of you, or up towards your top hand. Where can you find a comfortable, steady gaze? Keep squeezing your heels in towards one another. Just give you that support through the inner line of the leg. Press down into your feet. Right? Feel that steady connection just like we did standing. And then smooth out through your breath. One more breath here. And press down into that stability of your feet. Inhale, come all the way up. Reach your arms straight up. Turn both feet to the long end of your mat. Take a full breath in. And then exhale, hinge, and fold forward. Here's another great place for a block or two underneath your hands. If a little bit more support would feel good. You can also bend your knees a little bit. Some days, depending on that flexibility, mobility through the back of the body, we want a little more support. But do find a place where it feels like you can let your head get heavy, even if your upper body is a little more supported. So just let your head hang. Come back to that full connection to your feet. So you feel really rooted. And that you're bringing the attention there instead of the swirling thoughts of our head. And with the head heavy here, just letting oxygen come to the brain. Anytime we're inverted, right, so upside down, and that doesn't have to be a headstand or a handstand, right? Down dog is an inversion. Forward folds are often inversion, right? Head below heart, so that we're working with gravity to get blood flow moving to the brain. And so give yourself a couple more steady breaths there. And then bring your hands to your hips. Press down strongly into your feet. Inhale, come all the way up. And then we'll just turn to the back of the mat. So right toes to the back. And if you're on the opposite side, no worries, we're doing both sides. Slide your left heel back a little. Bend your front knee. Right? And then just take a peek. So right knee right over ankle or knee back just a little bit. So the knee joint's really supported there. And arms out wide, inhale. Squeeze your heels together. And keep your left shoulder and left ribs drawing back, but take your gaze forward over your front fingertips. Steady drishti, steady focus point. Root down actively into your feet and feel your breath. And in the real world, we're not on our yoga mat. You might find that one or two of these tools are really helpful, that you might not be using all of them at the same time, like we sometimes try in our practice. But you find the ones that work best for you, and just have those to come back to when things are feeling a little foggy. Okay, next, inhale, straighten your front leg. Exhale, reach forward, come down, triangle pose, Trikonasana. Right, so hand to shin, block, or mat. Right, just be mindful, sometimes when the hand goes too low, the upper body collapses. So you do want to keep space in your upper body and your chest. And sometimes that means just giving the hand a little bit more height. Squeeze heels together. Root down into your feet, roll your chest open, and then find that steady rhythm of breath. Good. Gaze point your drishti where it feels comfortable, straight forward or up towards your top hand. And then press down into your feet. Inhale, stand all the way up. Exhale, bring your hands to your hips, pivot your toes. This time you're going to take a big step forward to the front of your mat. And then again, hands by your sides. This time bring your feet together to touch. So we're going to work into a little balance here. And what's nice is that if the feet are together, then our center of gravity starts at midline instead of wider apart. So that can be helpful for balance poses. Okay, bring hands to heart. And just take a breath, feel into that strong connection of your feet. Then shift your weight into your left foot, bring your right foot in for tree pose, and you have a few options here. And so you can keep your toes down like a kickstand. Sometimes that feels like a great place to be. You can do sole of your foot to your inner shin, or you can do sole of your foot to your upper inner thigh. And just try to avoid your foot to the knee itself, to the standing leg knee, so you're not pushing the knee in the other direction. And one other really nice thing, if you have it, is hand to a wall. Like if balance is feeling challenging today, you can even just take a fingertip or two to the wall, and it helps you get the shape of the pose without fighting against it. Okay, and then you can keep hand to heart or stretch your arms up overhead. See where it feels like a good place for you today. Okay, find your steady gaze point for your eyes, your drishti, maybe somewhere on the wall right in front of you. Feel the anchor into your standing foot. Right? And that might feel less solid than when we're on both feet. And what can help with balance here is to put a little bit more pressure into the places that feel like they're lifting up off the ground. Whether that's the inner edge or the outer edge of the foot. And then steady through your breath. Good. Take one more full breath. And if hands are lifted, bring hands back to heart. Both feet down to the ground. And then switch sides. Right? So same thing, you can do toes like a kickstand, shin, or upper inner leg. Right? Just depending on range of motion. Hand to a wall. And then keep hands to heart or stretch your arms up. Find your steady gaze point. Root down into your standing leg foot. And find even here a little lift through your low belly for support. And then smooth your breath. Balance poses can be great for helping us find that single point of focus. When we start to think of something else, sometimes we fall over. Just notice when that happens and come back. One more full breath in. And then exhale, both feet down, hands to heart. Take a breath. Inhale, sweep both arms up. Exhale, fold forward. Keep your spine long. Come forward at your hips. And then either feet together here or feet hip width apart. Maybe a little bend in your knees to support that. Stretch along the back line of the legs and the glutes and the low back. And then just like that wide-legged forward fold, let your head get heavy. Press down actively from your hips to your feet. And so you can feel all those connection points along the bottom of your feet. And just notice how the head feels as we let blood flow come back to the brain. We'll take one more full round of breath. And then bend your knees. You're going to come all the way down to a seat. You get a little popping in the joints like I just had. That's great. And then you can sit up on your blanket, or if you have a throw pillow, again, just something to give your hips a little bit of height. And if you do that, sit right on the edge of the blanket or pillow. So what it does is let the pelvis roll forward a little bit so it doesn't feel so much like you're rounding in your back. I know it's an exaggeration, but so you can see that. Okay, let's start with the left leg in front. And you have a couple options here, just depending on range of motion of the hips. Right, so you can do shin in front of shin or shin on top of shin. Probably going to ask a little bit more demand on mobility in the hips, so see what works for you. Sometimes if you're kind of in between, a block underneath the hip can be a nice way to support that. But for many of us right here, shin in front of shin is a great hip opener. Okay, sit tall. Again, close your eyes or soften your gaze. And here, feel that connection down through your seat, through your sitting bones. And just like we did with our feet, a way to take the attention to the place that feels more grounded, more connected. And then decide if this feels like enough hip opening sitting right here, stay. Feels like you have a little bit more room to go, walk your hands forward. And that might be a few inches. Right? If you're pretty flexible, you can come more down chest towards your legs. Let's find your stopping point and honor that. Right? The practice isn't about necessarily having to come to that end range of motion. Let's find the place that feels effective. And then connect back to your breath there. This might be a nice place to come back to that umbrella breath. Right? Feeling the breath move in all directions. And take a couple more like that. Walk yourself back up. Switch sides. And so either right shin in front or right shin on top. Right there or there. And this side might be different from the first side. Right? We sometimes have very different ranges of motion side to side. Right? If you're in this shin on top of shin, flex through your feet. Right? Wherever you're at, you can press down through your feet and your legs and feel that firm connection to your seat, to your sitting bones. Okay, and then choose for this side. You can say, I'm going to stay right here. This is plenty. We don't often sit cross-legged on the floor as adults unless we're doing yoga, so honor where you're at or start to walk forward. Right. As you walk forward, stay active. So the feet stay flexed, press down into your legs, and keep your spine long, even as you connect back to your sitting bones. And then find the rhythm of breath that works best for you here. And take a couple more like that. And walk your hands back up. Unwind your legs, straighten out through your legs so they come right out in front of you. Now, a few options here. So again, if hamstrings, back body, right, feeling a little less flexible, you can slide blocks. You can do this with a blanket to underneath your knees. And so for a lot of us here, this is a really good lengthener for the back line. If you have a little bit more room, you can have legs straight. Wherever you're at, feet flexed. Okay, tall through your spine, anchored back through your seat. And then again, stay here or walk hinge forward. Right. Keep your toes curling back. Roll your inner thighs down to your mat. Stay long out through the crown of your head. And then take some full breaths. And just notice where your mind, where thoughts are at now. Has anything shifted at all throughout the practice? And what are the tools that felt really beneficial? What are the ones you might be able to use throughout the day? And sometimes it's just about pausing. It doesn't have to be a full practice. And take 10 full breaths. Or take a few moments in a forward fold. What are the things that are just going to help turn on the windshield wipers for the fog? Again, it's not that our practice might cure it, but it's just going to give us tools to help manage. And start to walk yourself back up. Good. Bend your knees, come all the way down onto your back. And have either a couple pillows or one of your blocks handy. And as you come to lying down, bend your knees and then lift your hips enough to slide either your block or a pillow or two underneath your hips. Oh, and always just a good reminder that it's really low enough that it's under your hips and out of your low back. Okay, a couple of choices here. This supported bridge, right here is a gentle inversion. Head is below heart, we're getting blood flow to the brain. So you can say, this feels great, I'm gonna stay right here. Or a supported legs up the wall as you bring your knees in towards your chest and then stretch your legs up towards the ceiling. And if you get here and this feels like a ton of effort or not great on hamstrings and low back, come back to the supported bridge. You want to try and find a place here that feels comfortable, supported, and it's not requiring a huge amount of effort. If you are close to a wall that's easy to access and want to do this at the wall so the legs have a little bit more support, you are welcome to do that. And sometimes we just don't always have easy access to that, so this supportive variation can be a nice way to approach it as well. Okay. Whichever variation you've chosen, let your eyes get soft or close. And come back into that full rhythm of the breath that we started with. Feel your breath move into your belly. Out into the sides of your body. And then into your back body. Until you find the place that feels full but not forced. But takes enough coordination, filling the breath into all of those little places. And it's really drawing all the attention and focus of your mind. And release any effort with your legs. And so we're just allowing blood flow to drain back to the heart and then to the brain. And it's always working against gravity. A simple pose like legs up the wall can help us to work with gravity to bring oxygen and blood flow back to the heart, back to the brain. And take a couple more breaths here. And we're going to move into just a few moments in Shavasana. If this feels really good and you want to stay, please do. If you are ready to move into regular Shavasana resting pose, you can bring your knees in, place your feet to your mat, slide your support out, and then stretch your legs long on your mat. And if you want support under your knees or a blanket, grab that. We'll just be here for a couple minutes, but give yourself enough support, enough comfort where you can rest. You get all settled in here. Just release even any effort with your breath now. Notice where it goes. And just let that hold your attention even in these last few moments of rest here. If you have longer to stay and rest and want to do that, please do. If you are ready to come out, and if you're lying down on your back, take a full stretch, reach your arms up overhead. If you're still in legs up, bring your knees into your chest and then your feet to your mat. And then wherever you're at, make your way all the way onto your side and press yourself back up to sitting. Bring hands together at your heart and lift heart to hands, bow head to heart. Let the practice be about finding the tools that you can use. It may not be a cure, but it can help us to really manage and navigate the symptoms that we have. Thank you so much for taking the time to practice today. Namaste.